like mindset is everything. As I said, like 80% mindset, 20% physical. Like as soon as you sort of have that flick in your, that switch flick in your head where you sort of like, okay, I'm capable of more. I've struggled with sort of mental health and depression for like quite a few years, which like wasn't necessarily anything to do with sort of what I'd seen or done in the Marines. It was sort of like what really sort of caught me off guard was sort of, class a tough one, mate. Just
Hi, Darren. Welcome to the show today. Before we get into talking about what you do now and fitness and things like that, you had a career in the military. So, how did you fall into that? Was that something you always wanted to do from school? Talk me through that process.
So first of all, cheers for having me on, Matt. It's
Pleasure.
excited to be on. So I served 11 years in the Royal Marines. But yeah, growing up, I was sort of destined for it. I think I was always playing soldier growing up. I had a few phases at school, sort of like I joined the band and stuff like that, grew my hair long and stuff like that. But I think the underlying thing that like I was destined to do it is sort of I love the outdoors. I love pushing myself sort of quite hard, and not sort of like I was sort of like the reprobate of the family, but I was always the one sort of like I do things a little bit different. So school wise, I did massively enjoy school. Sort of like I wasn't very academic. I was very sort of practical. So I was sort of good at sort of technical stuff, art, music, etc., etc. And I'm more sort of common sense based in terms of sort of academic based. And I think like I was never destined for sort of like an office job or sort of like a normal job. I think like the soldiering was something I always sort of knew was underlying there. And as I got a bit older, it sort of become more apparent. I was like, right, I don't want to sort of get a normal job. I want to sort of go out and sort of fly the nest as such and go sort of push myself out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, you said about the academic bit, and you're more practical, and I guess a lot of and having not been in the military, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the time you're solving problems on the go,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's quick decisions, and while there are textbooks around certain things, actually a lot of it is based on the info that's coming in here, there, and
Yeah.
everywhere, and making a decision.
Yeah, and it's got a name in the military. It's called initiative-based tactics. So it's sort of like you've got all your tactics that you train for, but ultimately it's sort of you've got to react on the spot to like the situation at hand. So sort of me being a bit more practical and a bit more sort of like better with sort of common sense situations and environments, sort of like that suited me really well.
Yeah, yeah, and the commanders also, you're known for your fitness and
Mm.
your ability. Then was that something you really, you were passionate about? You said you're outdoorsy, you're
Yeah.
sporty.
So like, I started going to the gym and that quite young, sort of about 15, 16, and sort of like really into my fitness. That was kind of like sort of my hobby. I did sort of sports and that growing up, but as I got a bit sort of into my later teens, it was like, right, no, just sort of general fitness is my sort of passion and hobby. And that kind of tied into, right, I want to sort of be a soldier. I want to join the military. I could either join sort of like a stand like the army or navy or so, or I could go hard and go for sort of like the top end and see. But I just wanted to sort of test my mettle as such. I sort of thought like, right, I'll sort of quietly go off and do it and just see what I'm sort of like physically and mentally capable of. And yeah, I'd like to say there was a plan B for me. It was sort of, and I think that was sort of like why my mentality was so sort of built for it. Cause I was like, there is no plan B. I was like, this is my only option. I'm going for it. Shit bust. Like I will be a
Yeah.
Royal Marine. Obviously there's lots of other sort of like obstacles and things along the way, but I think, yeah, I was just sort of like, no, I'm destined for this. I'm leaving Bexhill. I'm not coming back. And yeah, kind of went from there.
Yeah, and the one is, I mean, the percentage that pass through is actually quite small from the applications, isn't it? And do you think? I know some people pick up injuries, but you mentioned about that mental strength in there as well, because
Yeah.
actually you're putting yourself through a physical test, and
Yeah.
so I mean, I see it even just at the gym, getting that extra rep or a little
Yeah.
bit on the running machine. Actually, sometimes your brain gives up first.
Yeah, and it's sort of like apologies. I'll probably throw out so many like cheesy quotes and sayings and stuff about this and that,
Go
but
for it.
it is like it's 20% mental, 80% physical. and sorry, wrong way around. It's
Yeah, yeah.
80% mental, 20% physical. So it's sort of like, and I later on in my career, I ended up being a recruit instructor. So I took recruits through training, and you see some like absolute man mountains turn up, like athlete level fitness and stuff like that. But unless it was up here, like so many lads were failing just because they had the fitness, but they just didn't have the mental strength or resilience to sort of push through. Like sort of, it's all well and good sort of being fit in like a favoured environment to you when you're sort of you're dry, you're warm, you've got time to stretch and eat properly. But when you're sort of getting like mental pressure and sort of like a high stressing environment put on you, people crumble. And I think that was what sort of attracted me to the Marines. Obviously, like there's been so many different sort of advertising campaigns and that over the years. And the Marines, when I joined, it was 99.9% need not apply. And
Right.
and also, I remember seeing that on the advert. And at the time, I was like, right, I really want to go into the military. I'm sort of looking at what sort of options there are. I want to go for the best. And funnily enough, I saw like an advert on the telly, and I was like, oh, imagine being that 0.01%. And I thought, surely not. Like it can't be that hard, can it? And I sort of went through, and even from like the early stages of like the selection process, people were just dropping like flies off of it, and you do realise then you're like, okay, right, this is quite, even before you've stepped into like the camp to start your training, like the amount of people that are falling off throughout the selection process, you're like, okay, this is quite like a big thing here. And you sort of, you get those nerves and you're like, oh, can I do this? Can I not? You have that sort of self doubt. But yeah, it's just a case of sort of head down and go for it. As I said, like there was no plan B. So yeah,
I mean, sometimes that no plan B is the thing that makes plan A work, because
yeah,
you've got to, and I guess, you know, in that military situation at times,
yeah,
you know, it is life or death. We need to sort this
yeah,
out. There isn't like, oh, okay, no, we'll just do it tomorrow, you
yeah,
know, or I'm going to
yeah,
call a friend. It's like, I've
yeah,
got to sort this.
yeah. So the way I sort of see it as well is sort of like, and again, like people, like a lot of people are like, no, you need a plan B, you need a plan C, like exit this, that, and the other. And again, like relating everything to the military is sort of like there is only one plan A, but that doesn't mean there's like one linear route to it. So like your
Mm,
plan A could have multiple different sort of routes that you could take to it, depending on obstacles, setbacks, etc. But you're still like, my plan A was, right, I want to be a soldier, I want to be a commando, and it was sort of like, right, I might not get through the training the first time. Okay, what's my next route? What's this? Like, what if I get injured? What if I get pushed back a bit, like because I'm not sort of like capable or whatever, and they sort of pushed me back a few weeks, or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think it's, and the same with like business and stuff like that, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit.
mm.
Like when I left the military, I was like, right, Spearhead Fitness, that is my plan A. There is no other plan B. Like I'm going to work for myself, start a business. And again, I'm sure we'll delve into this, but like the amount of people that were trying to talk me out of it, trying to discourage me, they were like, you're mad. And they were like, what if it, like, it's going to fail? What if it fails? And I was like, it won't, I'll make
No.
it work. Like, because I'll choose a different route. If one route doesn't work, I'll approach it from a different angle and then see if that works. If that doesn't work, we go again. But it's sort of like having that mentality of like, right, this is what I want to do. I will get there by whatever means.
Yeah, there's certainly that thing that a lot of us, you know, and maybe people who aren't business owners, not knocking that, but it's that drive to do it. And we have it as kids, don't we? You see kids
Yeah.
learning to walk. They get up, they take what they fall down. They get up, they fall down. They take one step or two steps, fall down, but they
Yeah.
keep going. And then there's something between then and almost leaving school
Yeah.
where we don't have that absolute determination of, no,
Yeah.
I'm going for it. and
Yeah.
and a lot of time we just see the success, and I don't know whether that's part of it. We see, you know, the end goal. We don't see all the hard work people have done leading
Yeah.
to it, but there certainly is something about people, you know, certainly what you've done in the military, that like
Yeah.
just determined, I'm going to make
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, and I sort of, and I try and sort of obviously relate to my clients and stuff like that, because I do a lot of sort of mindset talking with my clients. And I think ultimately, like, that is the key to sort of any goal. It is change that mindset. You can be fit as anything. You can be sort of smart, academic. You can have money, but unless you've sort of, you're mentally determined and you're not going to get there. And it is sort of like, it's something I believe that everyone can have. It's just unlocking that in people. And sort of like you were saying there about school and stuff like that, I relate a lot of things to sort of like when you start driving or riding a bike, you don't get on the first time, then you're the end product. You're not going over jumps on your bike. You're not suddenly got a license in your car. Like, you need that process of like failing your, like learning how to drive, failing a test, etc., etc. But you still want to drive because you need a car to get on the road from A to B. So it's sort of like when people do that and they go, well, I want to drive, right? I failed my test, right? I'm going to do it again in a couple of weeks. But a lot of people, like in the military or with business, they go, oh shit, I've had a setback. Or even like with a fitness goal, like I see a lot of clients will sort of be like, oh, I'm not shredded beyond belief in 2 weeks. Like, right, I'm going to give up, sort of thing. And I'm like, right, but you need that. There's a process there in between that involves setbacks, involve obstacles, which is part of the process. And that's something I massively focus on as well, is that acceptance of setbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, I've seen it a lot with people who have come out of military and
Mm.
gone into that civilian sort of building a business. There is that certain type of mindset. And I wonder, is that they had that before they went into the military and that's why they went in? Or do you think the military sort of brought that out of them and enhanced it and maybe even taught that mindset? What do you
I think
reckon?
a bit of both. Yeah, I definitely think a bit of both. And like, I sort of explain it as having a bit of a screw loose. But so obviously, like, there's a certain sort of person that wants to go sign up for a job like that anyway. So you must have sort of some sort of like mental resilience or passion to go, right, I want to sign up for the military. But so it's already there, and sort of the instructors will draw that out of you. And as I said, a lot of people don't sort of make the cut because they can't handle that pressure. Whereas sort of the other people that do get through, they just sort of draw that mindset and sort of really like solidify that mindset in you. And a lot of that for me is sort of everyone's got what they believe are their barriers, and they're far from it. So like the mental sort of like barriers that you impose on yourself couldn't be any further away from what your barriers actually are. And that was something in training that really, really sort of like got beasted out of us. For example, sort of like for physical limits, like your physical limits are what you mentally impose on yourself. So if I said, like, and I say this quite brutally to clients sometimes, when they're like, I can't do that. I'm like, right, could you go run a marathon tomorrow with carrying 40 kilos on your back? They're like, no, of course not. And I'm like, right, but if your family's life depended on it, would you do it? And they're like, well, of course I would. I'm like, right, so you've already moved your mental barrier there to something different. And it was the same in training. It was a case of sort of like, you'd get beasted to an absolute inch of your life and you'd think, I cannot do any more. And then they go, right, unless you do that all over again, we'll make you stand there while we thrash the rest of your lads in front of you. And you're like, okay, right, I'll do it. And then all of a sudden your mental barrier has then shifted that bit right. And you're like, right, I'm capable of more. And then you get to the end product. And I know a lot of people that have sort of gone on to be sort of quite successful entrepreneurs just because they've got that mindset now of sort of like, it's kind of like not seeing challenge as something scary. Whereas a lot of people will sort of psych themselves out of, oh, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? And it's kind of like, I've got that mindset of like, okay, what could go wrong? Okay, cool. Right. We'll roll with it. Like, if something goes wrong, we'll get on with it. And it's not something that necessarily phases you because you're expecting setbacks, you're expecting obstacles, you expect things to go wrong. And it's kind of that thing in our heads where it's sort of like, right, well, it could go wrong, but I'm going to get to that end goal. Again, like I was saying earlier, I'll take a different route to get there.
Yeah, just either reframing the problem or understanding that there's going to
Yeah.
be issues, challenges, things like that
Yeah.
along
Yeah.
the way. And I think a lot of people start a business thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to be earning loads of money, going off on holidays, flying in my private helicopter.
Yeah.
And then when that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
actually, it's such a setback. But actually, if you understand that it
Yeah.
is quite a bumpy road, and in
Yeah.
fact, like you said, you might have to take detours, come off the road, go on another
Yeah.
road, or whatever. But you need to have that end goal in mind and just
Yeah.
consistently work for. I guess what one step forward, isn't it?
Yeah. And it is sort of like, and again, like I'll relate everything I do in business, everything I do with my clients and stuff like that. Like, because this was like one problem I had when I was leaving the military, sort of in the Marines, you've got like different sort of branches and specializations. So you've got like the ones that have got obvious transferable skills. So you've got like the communications lads, the vehicle mechanics, like medics, so on and so forth. Like sort of like the roles that aren't necessarily in the thick of it soldiering. And then you've got like the green role soldiers, as we call it, where it's sort of like you've got like your heavy weapons, your close quarter battle specialists, mortars, mountain leaders, sort of people at sort of like the pointy end a bit more. And that was like the career that I sort of had in like a green role. So I was a close quarter battle specialist. So I was sort of like always in like a full on soldiering role. And when it sort of come to me leaving, I was a bit like, shit, like what transferable skills have I got here, sort of thing. And it was, again, like deep down, I knew I had a lot because of like my mindset and stuff like that. But it's just that panic, and it's a tough thing leaving the military because I did it for 11 years. It's sort of like it wasn't necessarily a career, it was my life. And all of a sudden that was going to come to a complete halt. And it's sort of like, right, how do I be a normal person? Like, what have I got that from the military that I can transfer across? And I had to really sort of sit and think, like, right, what will I? And there was points where I was a bit like, I've got nothing. I've been really good at shooting weapons for my career, and I've been really like carrying heavy stuff, brilliant. And then all of a sudden, I was sort of like, right, no, actually, let's look at this. And like one of my biggest takeaways was, like you were saying there, of sort of different routes and stuff like that. Like I was like, right, okay, I'm going to see life as like an orders process. So anything you do in the military, you get a set of orders before going out on a task. So whatever that may be, like you'll get together as a troop, a section, or like a group of you, and then you'll get like someone go like, right, we're going to give you a set of orders for the task at hand. And that become more apparent as I promoted through, and I become the person sort of giving those orders, where you literally go, right, in short, this is the task, this is what we need to achieve. But then you go through like a very thorough process of like, right, what could go wrong? And you literally go through every single factor that could go wrong. You come up with a countermeasure for it. So it'd be like, right, this is our task. We're going to do this. Okay, right. What if we get lost on the route out? We're going to do this. What if we take a casualty on the route out? We'll do this. What if a bit of equipment fails? Okay, we'll do this. So on and so forth. And you have all these countermeasures in place. So that just gives you the confidence to go, right, okay, that's the task at hand. I've planned every eventuality that could go wrong. So as soon as it does, it's like, okay, right, we've a plan for this. And that was a massive thing that I took from the military into business. Where I first started Spearhead, I was sort of like, right, okay, it's all good. Like, I'm really excited for it. I'm going to do this. Like you say now, I'm going to make my millions and stuff like that. But I was like, right, what could go wrong? And I literally sort of got like a notepad. I was like, right, I'm going to write down all the things that could go wrong. Okay, what if I don't get any clients? What if no one turns up to a boot camp? What if I don't start earning enough money for me to continue this? So, okay, what other things do I need? It's like, right, I need a truck. What if my truck breaks? Like all these other things. And it's sort of like, that gave me the confidence starting up to kind of go, right, okay, like it's scary. Like I'm having a massive life change here. I'm going to start something completely new. Like not a lot of people necessarily go straight into self-employment out of the military, which is quite discouraged. But I was sort of like, no, I'm confident now. Like whatever happens, I've got some form of countermeasure in place. And it was that sort of takeaway from the military that really, really helped me launching that business. And like my sort of cheesy saying that I've sort of come up myself is to be your best, prepare for the worst, which is what I think a lot of people don't do. Like you said, everyone sort of has that sort of like flashing lights sort of like idea, and they're like, yeah, it's gonna work. It's like what could go wrong, and then something inevitably goes wrong, and their head falls off because they're like, well, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, listening to what you say there, it's almost like the military are masters at planning, but also masters of adaptation.
Yeah,
So you're really
yeah,
good at putting the plan together, but
yeah,
because you've built in all those extra bits, when
yeah,
things change, it's like, yeah, that's fine, and
yeah,
we'll do this. Whereas I
yeah,
think, the civilians were either really good at planning or
yeah,
maybe good at fixing some problems, but we haven't got the
yeah,
plan to start with, and that
yeah,
maybe that's where people fall over.
yeah. So right, another cheesy saying then. So like it got saying in the military, no good plan survives the first contact. So in a
Mm,
nutshell, what that means is like you can plan as much as you like, but the moment you're out the door, it's going to go to shit somehow. Like
yeah.
the plan that you've chosen, whether that's like, right, this is going to be it. We're going on a target, or we're going on like a humanitarian thing, or even on like a training exercise or something like that. Like something will always go wrong. And and that is the saying, like, no good plan survives the first contact. So it is sort of going right. We've got the ultimate plan. We've planned it to a T. It's going to go wrong. So we've made X amount of plans if it goes wrong to make it go right, if you get what I mean. So it's sort of like,
Yeah.
right, in a like gold standard is we're going to walk up to a target. It's all going to go perfect. We'll come back and yeah, everyone's happy, tea and biscuits and stuff. But realistically, it's like, no, there's going to be people sort of struggling to carry stuff. There's going to be equipment go wrong. There's going to be vehicles breaking down, or that someone might get injured and stuff like that. And it's going like, okay, right, we're still going to do the task. And
Yeah.
yeah, so as you said, there's a lot of people sort of have the perfect plan, but don't plan those countermeasures. And
Yeah.
I've got friends that have done it as well, where they're sort of like heads falling off over like the simplest of things. I'm kind of like, right, well, look at it from another angle then. And what about if you take a different approach to it? And they're sort of like, because they're so fixated on that one route that they were planning for it to all go right, they can't see anything outside of that.
Yeah, yeah, it's just, having that mindset of adaptation, I
Yeah,
guess, because in business, even if your plan is going right, there's other people doing other things that you've got no
yeah,
control over.
yeah,
And the just I say the landscape you're operating in, I guess, whether that's military and suddenly the landscape's changed, you've got someone shooting at you, or the landscape
yeah,
in business is in a competitor has launched a new product
yeah,
or a
yeah,
new class or something
yeah,
new. You've got no control over that. But what you can control is you. So you have to
yeah,
adapt.
yeah. Yeah,
Is
and like,
yeah.
so I've had something like that recently in terms of sort of, I obviously I do like my online coaching, my clients, and I run a boot camp as well. Obviously, going into the winter phases, I've tried to sort of book my indoor classes for boot camps. Shock, like everyone's trying to do the same thing, so
Yeah.
people have got in quicker than others. So there's a few days where I'm sort of like, right, shit, I've not been able to. But it was something I kind of prepared for. So I was sort of like, right, what if I can't book indoors for winter? What am I going to do?
Mm.
Because I need to continue the boot camps because it's like a source of income. So it's
Yep.
sort of like, right, so I can't just go, right, I'm packing in for the winter because that's my sort of bread and butter. But so it's sort of like I'm having those little obstacles and setbacks along the way, which I kind of expected.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as you said, like with competitors and sort of other people sort of booking other things and stuff like that, it's out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you find that transition? How, you said that the military don't necessarily encourage people to go into,
Yeah,
self-employment. Is there a bit of a process? Because it is a massive change having had, especially like 11 odd years, in that
yeah.
military lifestyle and things like to suddenly being out,
Yeah, like
and
massively. Yeah, it like absolutely terrifying because there's so many factors in it. It's sort of you're not necessarily ready to leave, but there comes a time in your career where you sort of feel that it's potentially the right thing to do. So I've got two kids that I wasn't around a lot of. Sort of obviously whilst I was away, I'd sort of be back sort of every other weekend, or if I was away on sort of deployments, I'd be away for months on end.
Mm.
And I got to a point in my career where I was kind of like, right, I'm either staying for my full term here, sort of 22 years, or I come home and be dad. And like that was it for me. So like I wasn't necessarily ready to leave the Marines. I sort of like felt like I loved it. Sort of felt like I was really good at my job. But yeah, I was sort of like, if I stay any longer, I sort of start getting caught into sort of more promotions, sort of closing in on pensions and stuff like that. So I was like, no, I need to make a decision and leave now. So you've sort of got that in your head as well, where you're like, I'm not ready to leave, but I kind of need to. And then you're sort of dealing with, how do I be normal in the world? Like, what do normal people do, sort of thing. Like, I've lived in a green suit for my whole career. Um, like I've boozed it up on camp with the lads twice a week or whatever. And then obviously all of your best friends are suddenly being ripped away from you.
Mm.
So like your family essentially is kind of like, yes, like with me and a lot of the lads meet up like once a year, but you're going from being in each other's pockets, living together every day, to kind of like, right, you're taking your brothers away and you're not seeing them, a lot of them again, or so you're dealing with that as well. And
Mm.
it's a lot of stuff there. And I think like I came up with the idea of sort of leaving through COVID. So off the back of COVID, I was like, right, I'm going self-employed, and you have to do a year. You have to give a year's notice, and I think like you get like a resettlement period where sort of like they sort of trying to help you and sort of set you up the best they can to sort of go on. And the amount of times I got told sort of like, you're an idiot for going self-employed PT. What, after COVID? Like, no, you'll be back you'll be back in 6 months, sort of thing. And like, just, I think they were trying to have my best interests at heart, because they were like, we've just gone through like however many lockdowns where PTs haven't been able to do this. Like, you're going to go self-employed. It's not the right thing to do. And I think I'm a bit of a stubborn shit where if people are saying no, like, you can't do it, I'm like, well, you watch me, sort of thing. Again, same as what I had joining the Marines, sort of the amount of people were like, "God, that's hard." Like, yeah, you probably won't get through that. And I was like, watch me,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So it was the same with business. People were like, nah, self-employed PT, like, you're not gonna do that. What, you're gonna start a company? Like, no, bad idea. And I was like, all right, watch me. So yeah, so the transition was hard, very hard, because I had the stress of obviously trying to process leaving the military, with the stress of obviously then starting a business, because I didn't have that sort of security barrier of like, okay, right, I'm going from one employment to another. I've got like a secure income coming. It was sort of like, right, I'm fending for myself here. I'm starting from nothing. I need to earn money. Again, I had two kids. Like, unfortunately, over the years, sort of leaving that, sort of like, me and my ex-wife, we went through a sort of divorce process. So again, it was just that part of that sort of transition process, which was another stress. So, and it's not uncommon at all for sort of like ex-servicemen to sort of have that sort of chaos when they leave, because it is pretty chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just such an upheaval, and I guess,
Yeah,
mentally for you. But obviously, you've always been very physical, and you're going into a
yeah,
physical job. But so how did you sort of juggle all of that? Because I think, it's clear out there that we know exercise is good for your mental health. But
yeah,
equally, when you were in the military, it was structured. You had time for it. Suddenly, you were having
yeah,
to make time for it,
yeah,
while having all the stress of day-to-day
yeah,
life. But you knew it would make you feel better, but you didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, how did you juggle all of that?
So I was kind of lucky in a way, in terms of like, because it's my job, like, and
Yeah.
be it having that self-employed. And I think that was a massive thing for me. It was sort of like, I wanted my time back.
Mm.
That's why I wanted to go self-employed, because I sort of like, right, I want to have a bit of time as well, sort of like for my family or for me. So obviously, like, I do a lot of my clients at the gym. So in between those, I get a bit of time to sort of like train myself, and sort of, and I think it's key for like sort of mental health wise to have that hour to you, or however long to you, to do something you enjoy, to kind of like keep you sane. And like, my sanity is keeping fit, like physically fit. And I found that was something I did struggle with when I left the military. Is like, my job now, like, I trained clients this morning, I had a couple of clients in, I'll do a boot camp tonight, but then predominantly the rest of my day is sat at a computer programming clients online, which I love. It does give me that freedom, but I've gone from like 100-mile-an-hour lifestyle, really physically active, to sat on a computer for majority of my day. And as I'm sure you sort of know, like, making content and stuff like that it isn't quick. So yeah, like, that was something I struggled with, being so active, to suddenly be like, oh, I'm sat at a computer all day. I get sort of that fidgety feeling of like, right, I need to do something. So I think if I didn't have that commitment to myself to go, right, I'm going to go to the gym and train, I would lose my head. So it's sort of, I think it's key for anyone to sort of have that sort of time out to invest in yourself a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and we do. I mean, talking about the military, we hear lots of veterans who come out
Yeah,
and end up in a really tough place. Because
yeah,
they've turned to drink, their mental health's
yeah,
deteriorating, and things like that. Luckily, you've thrown some energy into building a business, but I guess you
yeah,
still get those mental struggles from that
yeah.
transition.
Yeah, 100%. And like, obviously, we spoke before we started recording. Like, I'm quite open with sort of my mental health. I've struggled with sort of mental health and depression for quite a few years. Which, like, it wasn't necessarily anything to do with sort of what I'd seen or done in the Marines. It was sort of like, what really sort of caught me off guard was sort of the separation of the work life and the family life. And sort of like having kids. And so, for example, like, my depression sort of really sort of kicked in when me and my ex-partner, we had our son Harrison. He was born, he was about 6 weeks old, and I got deployed last minute away abroad for months, and I wasn't expecting to go on that tour. Like, none of us were. It was kind of like, I said goodbye to him, well, obviously 6 weeks old, said goodbye to him, like, I'll be back next Friday. And then on the Wednesday, we were in a foreign country. So, and it was that sort of, that transition of sort of being away and then kind of having to sort of switch off the fact I was a new dad and then coming back and then trying to bond with like a newborn who I hadn't been around for a long time. That sort of really sort of, I started struggling with depression there, but then it then massively heightened when I left the military, because it's sort of like, you're someone in the military, you've got like a purpose, you're like, right, you are a commando, like this is your job, this, and then all of a sudden you sort of have that all ripped out, and they're like, okay, who am I outside of being the military? And you've got to you're trying to find your personality, find who you are outside of being a soldier, whilst trying to start a business, whilst trying to sort of like integrate back into being a full-time family man. All these other things. So it's like the mental health struggles. It's like, it's a massive issue, like globally, with like everyone, like not just military, but it specifically in the military, it's very, very a big problem, that's trying to be tackled, but it's not that, it's miles off. But yeah, so like the mental health struggles, leaving the forces it is massive. But as I said, obviously you're trying to do that whilst starting a business or this, that, and the other.
Yeah, and you said about that purpose, and I guess
Yeah,
while you're in the military, you have that purpose. But even for
yeah,
people like myself, I mean, I've got 2 young kids. I'm in my 40s now, and
yeah,
you, I say life is a bit boring, as in like
yeah,
you get up, you do the school run, you do this, you do your work, you sit down, you have some dinner, and
yeah,
I think you get to that stage where you're like, so is this it?
yeah,
And if
100%.
maybe your purpose is starting to, what is it? Is this now
Yeah,
just my life? Because when you're younger, when you started in the military, or whether you started,
yeah,
you're always looking forward. But I feel like I've hit that age of like, yeah, say, is this it now until I
yeah,
retire? Like, what I want something new, but
yeah,
I'm at an age where I've got responsibility, I've got bills to pay. What is it? And that's, I think, what affects me is in like,
yeah,
yeah, finding a purpose or a passion, I guess.
yeah. But then I think with that, it's sort of like you take the risk. Take like get like, I'm gonna really beat myself up for saying this later, but it is so cheesy. But like, you have got one life, and it is
Mm,
kind of like, I was speaking to a client this morning about sort of like pensions and like really working hard at the business to try and make loads of money. And I was like, but you sort of like, when people are doing that, they're setting themselves up for like a few years in the future that you might not get,
mm,
because you might not be here for whatever reason. And I'm sort of like, so many people, like, I don't want to get to sort of like a retirement age and go, shit, I wish I'd chased that decision, or like, I
yeah.
wish I'd started Spearhead or something like that, or like, I wish I joined the Marines, and like, I want to get to there and go, right, I'm happy with the decisions I made. I'm happy that I took those risks. Like, they might not have paid off, but if they do, brilliant. If they don't, another route, sort of thing. And I think so many people just get comfortable, like in life, and
Mm,
like you were saying there, sort of like you're in your 40s, like I'm sort of in my 30s, and sort of so many people get to this point, they're like, oh, that's me now, settling. And I'm like, you've got like 40, 50, 60 years potentially in front of you. And I'm like, you could like chase that dream, like sort of like, don't just stay in the dead end job because you're secure and safe and it's in your comfort zone. Like, step out of your comfort zone, sort of. And again, like, if you don't mind me talking about sort of like risk taking and stuff like that, like, I'll go
yeah,
off on
go
a bit
for
of
it.
a tandem here, sort of thing. Like, taking the risk is like the best thing you could ever do. Like, whether that's in business, like relationship, like jobs, any like life goals, anything. Because, like, again, relating it to the military, it's not just taking a risk on a whim. It's taking a calculated risk. So
Mm,
like, everything in the military is like, right, okay, we're taking a risk here. Like, we're putting ourselves on the back foot to go achieve a task. But again, like, going through that process of like, right, how can we put ourselves in the best position on the back foot to make that achievable? If you get what I mean. So for me,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
for starting a business. I was like, it's a massive risk for me. I'm losing that security of like, I was on good pay. I was as a corporal in the Marines. Obviously you have all the bonuses like throughout the year. I've like got med care, albeit not great, but like dental paid for. Like, your food, accommodation, like everything is sorted for you. Like it's a comfortable, secure lifestyle.
Yeah.
To then suddenly go, right, I'm going to take a massive risk here and go, I'm leaving the military. I'm not going to go into the security of self-employment. Of employment. I want to go self-employed, start from scratch. And obviously that to me is a massive risk. But I was like, right, how can I lessen that risk? Right. So it's like, right, I need to make sure, like, again, I did like my little checklist. I was like, right, what can I do? I was like, right, I want to get overly qualified because I have my PT qualifications anyway. I was like, right, I'm going to do follow-on PT courses to make me more make me more sort of desirable sort of thing. So I was like, right,
Yeah.
I'm going to become a nutritionist. So I'm going to become like a lower back pain specialist. I was like, right, okay, what other things could I do? Like, okay, right, sort of planning my boot camps. Right, I need to get loads of kit to make it look glamorous. I'm going to get flags made up. I'm going to get a truck all sign written up and stuff like that. Instead of me just going, right, I'm going to go down the local park and hope someone comes. I was like, right, now I'm going to invest sort of money and time into like making it look all singing, all dancing. Bullshit baffles brains. If people think it looks good, it must be good, sort of thing. And it was all like things like that. I was sort of like, right, I'm taking a risk, but I'm going to get everything stacked behind me and in my corner to make that risk like more worth, well, sort of more likely to pay off, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean, what's the saying? You miss all the shots you don't take, and
Yeah,
that's
100%. Yeah,
it is so true. And I think as we get to end of life, like you're saying,
yeah,
talking to clients, talking about 70, 80, 90 years
yeah.
old, I mean, I've seen it. This summer wasn't particularly the best summer weather-wise,
Nah,
and
horrible. Yeah,
and I remember there was a sunny day, and actually I was just really busy with work, and I did emails and things like that. You know what? Do I remember what those emails were now? No. I
yeah,
should have
yeah,
just taken that sunny day and gone to the beach because we
yeah,
didn't get many of them.
yeah,
And actually that's the way I try and look at things a bit more now of like,
yeah, yeah,
just take that moment because
yeah,
you're not going to remember, the boring
yeah,
emails you sent or that extra little bit. Yes, of course you've got to work. Yes, you've got to earn money, but actually
yeah,
take some bits for you. Go to the
yeah,
beach, go for a long walk, go for a bike ride, go and do something
yeah,
you
yeah,
enjoy. It's
yeah,
take a risk, try a new hobby.
yeah. Because you can't get rid of the regret later down the line. Do you know what I mean? So it's
No,
sort of, yeah,
it's
yeah. I think like I sort of base a lot of my decisions, sort of business and lifestyle wise, on that, like that sort of mantra of sort of like, right, will I regret this later down the line? Like, or what will I regret more, sort of thing.
yeah,
And yeah, there was plenty of sort of decisions through my military career where I sort of had to sort of do that, like whether I sort of progressed within the military, or sort of wanted to be sort of a dad more and stuff like that. So, yeah, there was lots of things like that. And again, I always relate back to, I'm sort of like, right, what will I regret more? Will I regret not going for this, or will I regret going for it? Like, or if I do this, will I then get that down the line and be like, oh, I wish I'd had more time with my kids, or et
yeah,
cetera, sort of thing. Like for that, like I had a good career in the military. I was doing really well. I was sort of promoting through the ranks. Could have stayed on to a pension and like been really comfortable by the time I was 40. I could have left by 40 and had a full pension, like gleaming, glamorous career. But then I sort of thought, if I do that, will I get to later down the line and be like, I regret not being around the kids more? And
mm,
that for me, I was sort of like, no, that is taking priority over everything, because I've had a big career in the military. So if I left the military and regretted it, I could always go back, but I can't go back and get that time back with the kids later down the line if I do regret it, if you get what I mean.
yeah. No, completely. Yeah, once the kids are grown up, they're grown
Yeah.
up, and I think again, it's cheesy, but everyone says they grow up so fast, but
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
it is so true. So,
Yeah.
when you're working with clients, what you're working on their fitness, but you said about the mindset as
Yeah.
well. So do you work on both? I assume.
Yeah. So like for me, like mindset is everything. As I said, like 80% mindset, 20% physical. Like as soon as you sort of have that flick in your, that switch flick in your head where you sort of like, okay, I'm capable of more, or like I've broken out of a comfort zone, you then become so much more like that related to a physical aspect
Mm.
is unbelievable. And like I sort of, like I do like a funny joke with my clients and stuff like that. I'll see like the biggest weight or something like that, or like I'll be like, right, okay, because also I'll be like, right, you're going to do that weight today, and they're like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I'm like, well, you can. They're like, no, I can't. I'm like, all right, okay, but you can do that. You're going to do it, but switching that mindset, so something simple as sort of like, I go, right, do you think I'll be able to go lift that truck out in the car park? They're like, no. I'm like, I know I can't, but I'll go give it a good fucking go. But it's sort
Yeah.
of like, it's having that mindset of, instead of going, I can't, it's like, I'll try. And I think that
Yeah.
it's little
Yeah.
things like that in the mindset. It's sort of like, I don't expect like a client to suddenly be like, right, you've got like a commando mindset to be like a trained soldier and stuff like that. It's little, like, I know I try and sort of do it at like a smaller level, because I think a lot of people sort of come to me and they're like, oh, I can't can't handle being trained by a commando. He's going to be horrible. He's going to thrash me or something like that. And I'm like, no, I'm a personal trainer now. I'm not a commando, horrible recruit instructor anymore. I'm a personal trainer. Like, we'll rein it in a little bit, and it's sort of, I try and sort of do those little micro switches in people's heads and stuff like that, of sort of going sort of self-belief and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Sort of like, as soon as you get like that little bit of self-belief, it's like, okay, well, I will try that weight. And then they pick it up and they're like, oh, okay. And it's sort of like they're getting that foot out the door sort of sketch. It's sort of, if you're constantly going, I can't do that, you're never going to try. Whereas sort of, if you do try, you then go, oh, that's actually quite easy. Okay, right, what's my barrier's now moved that way a little bit. Okay, right,
Yeah.
I'll try something new. Okay, right, now my barriers, I'm capable of a lot more than I expected I would be. So my barriers now shifted more. So it, I'll do a lot of mindset stuff like that with clients, and a lot of it is sort of like self-doubt, just unconfidence, just not really being aware of what they're capable of. So sort of some people I will sort of push, like sort of what they believe are their limits, because again, it's not me going there like being horrible, thrashing them like crazy, like I used to do as a recruit instructor. But it's sort of like going like, okay, look, now you've lifted that weight, or you've just run that distance, or you've ran that speed, like, and seeing that sort of change in their heads, like how proud they are, how sort of they're like, how open their eyes, that they're sort of more than capable to trying more. Something as simple as that, just flicking
Yeah.
that little switch could be the difference for not just in fitness, but in life. Just having that confidence to go for things a little bit more.
Yeah, it's shattering those sort of limiting beliefs, isn't there? You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there was that thing. I think it was Roger Bannister when he, yeah, no one had ran that sort of 4 minute mile, and
yeah,
no one thought it was possible.
yeah,
Once he'd done it,
yeah.
like three other people did it the same year.
Yeah,
Now I don't believe they suddenly got better runners within that year. It
no,
was just they believed it could be done because
it's
someone
it's
else had
already
done it.
there. It's just on unlocking that mindset to go after it, if you get what I mean. And
Yeah,
again, probably a lot of that is sort of like someone knew they were a good runner, but they're like, no, I can't break that. I can't
yeah,
break that.
because no one's done it. No one's ever
Yeah,
done
and
it.
then
It
all of a
can't
sudden
be
they're like,
done.
oh, maybe I'll try, and
Yeah,
then all of a sudden shock, like it's happened. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I sort of do a lot of mindset sort of stuff in a positive way. But then, as I said before, with like my cheesy saying that I come up with, like, to be your best, prepare for the worst. I
mm,
believe like having like a really good, strong mindset is to be able to deal well when things are in the shit. So I think for me, as I said, like, I've struggled with my mental health for quite a while and stuff like that. And a big thing I took from the military was sort of like really nailing down the basics, because in any time of stress, the basics are what you fall back on. Like, your body almost goes into autopilot. So it's forming those habits, and a lot of people won't have solid habits, like daily habits. They won't have like a solid routine or structure to their day, or like the things they do in their day. And that's why when people do get down or struggle mentally, they've got nothing to fall back on. They get themselves in a hole. Whereas like I struggled a lot over the past sort of couple of years since leaving the military, obviously dealing with that, dealing with sort of going through a divorce and being away from the kids, etc. So I was in quite sort of a bad way mentally, whilst trying to keep the business afloat. And I'm sort of in a better place now. And looking back, I was sort of like, I was on full autopilot, but it's because it sort of survived and sort of got through, because I was literally just hammering those basics that I already had instilled in me. So I do a lot of that sort of stuff with clients as well. It's sort of like, right, we're looking at your life. We're not just your fitness. It's like, right, we're going to get habits set up. We're going to get a routine and structure, sort of like really solid part of your day. So if things do go wrong, your body's natural reaction to fall back onto the basics. And if you've got those absolutely nailed, no matter what's going to happen, like, you can get through. Like, for me personally, like, the business kind of continues, and I continued running it, building a business from scratch, whilst I was like struggling with like quite that like dark depression. because I was literally like, my body was going through those basics every day.
Yes, and I mean, you're doing sort of things like morning routines and
Yeah,
specific things you do, and
yeah,
tasks, and even evening routines, or just the way that you do certain things.
yeah,
When they become habits. So, what do
yeah.
you think are some key ones that are easy for people to do?
So it's a lot of, for me, is all in like morning routine. So it's like your day can sort of be sort of dictated about how you wake up. So like for me, it's I wake up, I drink like a glass of water. First thing I do is like I'll neck like a glass of water. I then, like as you see here, I've got like post-it notes everywhere. It's an old school method, but like it's one of the best things ever. Like I write a lot of reminders and that on my phone and stuff like that, but obviously they get lost in notifications and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
I go old school, I get pen to paper, I'll be like, right, what tasks do I need to complete today? Or I'll do it the night before. So it'll literally be things like sort of like, right, deal with clients, make an Instagram post, like go to the gym or stuff like that, because it's motivating ticking them off. Like it sort of
yeah,
gives me a bit of motivation seeing things getting ticked off the list. But also I know like if I wake up and I'm having a bad day, like I've got something literally in front of me to go, right, I cannot think, my brain's foggy, right, what do I need to do? Like brush my teeth. Like
yeah,
obviously I
yeah,
don't like
yeah.
that. But do you know what I mean? Like
No, no,
writing
but
tasks,
it is
but
that
yeah, but
thing of
like writing
building that
tasks on
habit.
paper. So where if you are mentally in the shit, and I've had it before where like I've been trying to sort of like come up with a boot camp for like for the week, and I'll be sat there like on like a dark day, and I'll be like, I cannot think of any exercises. I can't think of anything outside of press ups, sit ups, or squats. I wouldn't have the mental capacity to just type in on Google bodyweight exercises or boot camp circuit, just because I'd be there like, I cannot, I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't do this, what, that. But then I'd just be like, right, I'd look at my notepad. I'd be like, right, I've got to make an Instagram post. Okay, right, that's easy. I'll tick that off. And then all of a sudden, I'm sort of making my way through a list. And then by the end of the day, I've got through the list. So at least I've achieved what I've needed to, like, to achieve for that day. And I think that for me is like a massive one. Just writing lists. It's something so simple. Like, yeah, I'll say it to clients. They're like, what, write a post-it note, put it on the fridge. I'm like, trust me, it'd be the best thing you could do with your day, because like I said, like you can write as many alarms or notifications on your phone. By the time you've got however many Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApps, texts all like
Yep.
come up on your phone, it gets lost, it gets forgotten about. Whereas like if you've got someone in front of you, like to literally go tick, 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 like you've set yourself, like it's like the Darren of the past has tried to sort of give the Darren of the future a bit of a nudge in the right direction for the next day. So things like that, as I get like wake up, decent breakfast. Obviously, not for everyone. People fast and stuff like that. Like you were saying earlier about you doing your ice bath. Like
Yep.
it's not like necessarily a one size fits all thing. It's like do something
No.
to do you that you feel like you can be consistent daily. That you're not gonna like. Don't do it something so sort of like madly out like so hard that it's really tough to get into. Like I'm sort of like you sort of talk about your ice baths. Do you find that sort of like a part of your day, like an easy, well, it's obviously not easy getting cold water, but do you find that something like it's an easy task to go get done in the mornings or?
Yeah, it works for me. It's quick. I
Yeah,
don't do any longer than 5 minutes.
yeah,
It's quick. It's easy, and I'm done. I enjoy it. But equally, exactly like you say, people need to set up a task related to just their
yeah,
general lifestyle. I'm lucky. I have I have the time to be able to do that, and
yeah,
then come in and then sort the kids out and do all of that.
yeah,
And I'm working from home. I appreciate other people can't. And it's like we see
yeah.
these things, don't we, on Instagram where people are like up at 5, journal for 2 hours, do a 10K. Like well, I haven't
Winds me
got
up
time to
so
do all
much.
of
Yeah,
that.
and it's sort of
Like
like, but then you're sort of going like, right, but then you've got the single parent who's got to try and make the breakfast, go on a
yeah,
school run, get ready for work, and so
yeah,
this like, right, they're not going to have necessarily 5 minutes to go sit in an ice bath because their kids are
no,
going to be like, but it's sort
yeah,
of, so when I sort of say like
finding something
find
that
a
works for you.
routine that you could solidly and consistently do every single day in, day out, without putting too much pressure on yourself.
Mm,
Because that's how a habit forms. So
yeah.
like, for example, again, like I relate to a single parent who's, if they go, right, I'm going to do ice baths, and they maybe do it once or twice in the week, and they're like, oh, that idea went out the window. It's not for them. But there's something else as simple as like, right, I write a daily task list out for myself and drink a
Mm,
glass of water every morning. That for me is like two
yeah.
habits that sort of like, I like, because I'll drink a glass of water, put the kettle on. Whilst the kettle's on, I'm writing my tasks for the day. And then I'm like, okay, well, I've got a coffee. I'm going to wake myself up, have a good breakfast. And now I've been productive, at least because I've planned my day out. That for me works. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've got time to fit in exercise and stuff throughout the day, but whether that could be like, right, I'm going to get up and do 50 press ups every day. It's easy because I can roll out of bed, do it at the side of the bed. Like, it could be anything. And I think
Yeah.
like building those habits is sort of like when things do start getting dark or tough or like time consuming, you know that you at least got sort of like those sort of daily habits that are going to remain consistent. I think that's what keeps people sane. That's what keeps people sort of from completely losing themselves. Um, yeah,
Yeah, having those habits, and I love that you sort of almost habit stacking as well.
yeah,
So you have your water, and then when the kettle goes on, you do your list, and it's
yeah,
almost like that. You've got three individual habits there, but
yeah,
actually, where you've combined them, one almost triggers the next one, which triggers
yeah,
the next one, and it
yeah,
means that you get them done. And I mean, you said about brushing your teeth. That now for most adults, we do
yeah,
it almost without thinking. It's a habit. We get up and do it.
yeah, yeah,
But for kids, you often say, right, come on, you need to come and do your teeth. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
because we kept telling them to do
yeah,
that that
yeah,
they then build the habit. So it
yeah,
is just, having something that's small and easy that as
yeah,
adults we can implement into our life to have that little bit
yeah,
of
yeah,
structure. It prevents our brains wandering off onto too many other things, or
yeah.
certainly on those days, like you say. I mean, I've had really tough days, and you just don't have the mental capacity to think about other things.
No,
But if you've already got a list, or you've
yeah,
got some habits that you do, you don't have to think,
yeah,
because it's set out what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing. I mean, I do. If I'm going to the gym early in the morning, I get the gym clothes out the
yeah,
night before, and
yeah,
have
100, yeah.
have them
That's another
ready,
one. Yeah,
because I don't want to get up in the morning and go, oh, which shorts shall I wear today,
yeah,
or shall I wear that? No, I don't want distractions. I want to get
yeah,
up and just put the clothes on.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just reducing decision fatigue, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's making your life that little bit easier by doing small things, and it's sort of like, for example, like obviously I deal with a lot of clients, like personal training clients and stuff like that. Like the end goal might be like, right, I want to lose X amount of kilos of body fat or something like that, and it's sort of like they're like, right, right. Obviously the training, they think the training's like the hardest part, and they're like, right, I'm doing all the effort on the training. I'm like, but it's not just that. It's all the little things along the way, like sort of
Mm,
like tracking your nutrition, or like staying
yeah,
within a calorie deficit, or like weighing in daily, just stepping on the scales. Like takes 10 seconds to tread on the scales and log your weight on my app that I use. All this is to get to like a big goal. It's all the simple little goals that sort of get you there eventually, but it's all the simple little goals that people don't tend to do, if you get what I mean. Things like those
yeah, yeah,
daily habits and stuff, like you said there, like something as simple as putting your gym clothes out in the morning. It's going to motivate you because your alarm's going to go off. You're going to look to your side. You're going to see it all set out for you. And like,
yeah.
okay, well, I've got to do it now because I've set myself up. Whereas if
Mm.
you're like, if nothing's there, like you've not got a bottle of water by the bed, you've not got any gym clothes, that's when you start going, can I be
Yeah,
bothered?
yeah, because
No.
there's a lot of effort before
Yeah.
you even get to the gym. Whereas
Yeah.
I reduce all sort of,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, effortless, or tasks that take effort, picking what I'm
Yeah.
gonna wear. And I know it sounds silly, but when if your alarm goes at 6 and you're trying to pick a t-shirt to wear to the gym,
Yeah.
like I can't concentrate. Just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
it all out the day before and get ready.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dan, it's been great to chat to you today.
Yeah. And
Just
you, mate.
to finish off, just one little question for anyone thinking of starting a business. What do you wish you knew when you started that you now know now?
God, that's a tough one, mate. Um, just I kind of relate it into sort of like something I've always spoke about. It's like sort of like the obstacles and setbacks thing.
Mm,
It's sort of like I wish I kind of knew how many obstacles and setbacks that there would be, and it's not just. And again, I was talking with a client about this, funnily enough, this morning. It's not necessarily just stuff that goes wrong with a business. For example, like for me, I was like going through a divorce and family stuff. It's the outside factors that I wish I'd been
mm.
more prepared for, if you get what I mean. So it's all
Yeah.
well and good going, right, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to take Darren's advice and plan everything that could go wrong with the business. For me, I did all that. I sort of was really confident, but then I got knocked when obviously it was sort of like all outside factors are now going wrong outside of my business, like sort of like
Mm.
marriage and stuff like that. And now having to try and sort of fit business around sort of co-parenting with my ex-partner and stuff like that. So I think with things like that, if you're starting a business, take the risk, go for it, plan everything that could go wrong, have countermeasures that could go wrong with the business, but then be prepared for other things to go wrong as well. So I think that's what I wish if I could tell my former self. But again, a lot of stuff you can't be prepared for.
No.
But it's sort of having that mindset to go, something could go wrong. I could get caught off guard by something. And I think that's what I would wish I'd sort of taken forward a bit more.
Love that. Thank you so much for your
Thanks for having
honesty,
me on,
your
mate.
vulnerability, and just your insights into both like your military career and what you do now and mindset. And I've loved the conversation. So thank you very much. And
Yeah,
enjoy
cheers
the
for having
rest
me
of
on,
your
mate.
day.
Yeah, and you,
Pleasure.
pal. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.